What's going on, everybody? It's your favorite YouTuber, Austin Holloman, and we are back again with another daily interview with somebody that is putting in a lot of effort to show up because he's in Bangkok, Thailand, and it is like midnight or 1 a.m. over there. It's a lot of effort for him to wake up and bring you guys this show. So, of course, I came with my questions prepared. I hope you guys have any additional questions you could ask the guest. Yes, this is not about women. This actually is not about women at all, but for people that actually plan to live or become a digital nomad, expats or become a digital nomad, this is an important topic for futuristic thinking and current thinking as well. So if you are interested in becoming a digital nomad or living abroad, make sure you guys tune in. I will go ahead and bring our guest up and I'll let him introduce himself. What's going on, Mr. Dan? Mr. Sparks, I should say. You're on mute.
Austin,
How's it
Chad,
going?
Earl, great, fantastic. How are you?
Good. I'm doing good as always.
I'm looking pretty big in this screen. Is my face like really up against the
Oh yeah,
camera?
that's the setting that it's on right now. Just zoomed in.
All right.
So, so could you tell everybody who you are, what you do, and yeah, what your expat status is right now? I guess, or what it's like being an expat where you're at.
Sure. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dan Sparks, originally from Philadelphia, PA, and I currently reside in Bangkok where I'm retired. And you ask, what do I do? And I don't do a damn thing. I am retired. I tell people that I live like a house cat. And if you people who are dog people, you know what a cat does all day. It stretches, it finds a place to sleep, it scratches its nuts, it walks around, it finds little bots, goes out and chases lady cats, and then comes back in. But in all seriousness, I was fortunate growing up in Philadelphia. My father took a job with an NGO, a non-governmental organization, when I was 5, and we picked up and we moved to Ghana. So I lived in Ghana from age 5 to age 10. Those were my formative years with my mother and my father going to school, living there full time, then returning to Philadelphia, finishing high school, then going on to Howard University. Upon completing Howard University, I'd always wanted to be a Marine. I went into the Marines as an officer, first as enlisted and then as an officer. I did my career in the Marine Corps as a communications officer, which essentially as an IT manager. Did my time, then I did some civilian time, then got to the right point where my baby son graduated from university. I had taken care of all my responsibilities. I was divorced 7 years prior. And last August, right on my birthday, I actually landed here in Bangkok on a 10-year long-term retirement visa. And that's where me and you met, because you were traveling and we met in one of the chats, and then you went to Kenya. Remember buddy Troy White, who lived 2 doors down from me at Howard University in the dormitory. So you start to see a recurring theme here, not to toot the horn of Howard too much, but I'm going to do it. But we have a different mindset. We're more globally minded there. And we take what we learn and we head out into the world and try and do great things. So
Wow.
that's it in a nutshell. And glad. I got to love you, man, because it's midnight and I'm old. So I told Austin earlier, it was like 7 o'clock. I'm going to sleep now. So I'll be up to go and live with you in Paraguay. And it's my pleasure.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, I'll make sure that I keep the questions quick and for your for the time it is over there. So what made
I'm now. I'm wide awake.
okay, what motivated your decision to settle in Bangkok if you didn't just cover that already? And how has that influenced your investment strategies?
I first came to Thailand in 2004, and I was still as a reserve officer working for the DOD, and I had a business trip to Okinawa, Japan. And my boss was a brother who was a retired colonel in the Army, and he had never been to Asia. So I arranged everything. We went to Japan, went to Okinawa, we did our training, and I found out, I said, listen, we could take 2 days and swing by Bangkok before we come back to DC, because it was cheaper to do that layover than it was to go straight. And the company didn't care. They said, "Oh, you're saving us about $1,000." And I had done my reading about Bangkok. I never had a chance to go when I was stationed in Okinawa, Japan, and it blew his mind too. We landed, had a whirlwind 48 hours, got on the bird, came back to DC, and I started coming more for business trips and pleasure. Then when the opportunity came for me to go back on active duty because of the global war on terror, I was mobilized on active duty, and I spent another few years stationed between Hawaii and Okinawa, Japan, so I would be able to take long weekends and come to Bangkok. And I fell in love with the weather, the food, the people, their mindset, the cost of living, the lifestyle. And Thais even asked me, he said, "Kundan, why did you pick Thailand?" Well, right before I moved here, Forbes magazine came out with an article where they talked about the top 3 places in the world to retire for Americans over 60. And I don't recall the cities and other places, but Panama, Portugal, Hua Hin, Thailand. So just take out the cities, but so it's everybody knows it. Out of all the cities in the world, Bangkok is the most visited. Hong Kong and them always go back and forth back. It's been about 10 years running. And I ask folks this question: what do you think is the most visited city in the world? Oh, it has to be New York, it has to be Paris, it has to be London. Out of the top 10, New York is number 7. So Bangkok is the place, and people recognize it, and it's a fantastic lifestyle over here, and I have no regrets whatsoever.
Okay, so how does that influence your investment strategies? Like with the cost of living being cut down, and let's say opportunity that's locally in the city, what how does that influence your investment strategies? Like, how do you use your excessive income to invest in things like S&P, or I know you spoke of Vanguard before.
So to rewind back real quick, remember I said that we moved to Ghana because my father got a job. He was 20 years old, and it's funny because I hear that single mom song. Dad was 20, mom was 19, and he got her pregnant. But back then, you did the right thing. He sat with my grandpa for a few hours, then took my mom to a marriage service in Philly. They got married, and he went off into the Marines. I was born while I was in the Marines. He came home, and my grandmother met him at the door holding me, and she said, "Here, take him." But he was able to think bigger because he had a job at the post office. And back then, black men became teachers or postal workers. My mother was an operator for Bell Telephone. Y'all don't remember, but the telephone company that had women in the old movies were operators, would plug calls. She wasn't college educated. He did a year at Howard. Then he did a year at Temple because his mother was a widow. They couldn't afford it. And he took a leap of faith to take this job working for the Department of State at an NGO. And I bring this up to talk about it has to be your mindset first. And for those who have read Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I was fortunate. My dad was the rich dad. I didn't even know it yet. I just knew that he was hard on me, but he had no choice, being his mother was a widow and he was 10, 12, 13 years old making deliveries for the drugstore. And then he took this opportunity, a leap of faith, to go overseas. And he put those seeds in my mind about living and working. And he did all those investment opportunities, but it taught me that if you get a job overseas, not only do you get your salary, but they give you your housing. So we had a big house that was paid for. And me and my sister went to private school. So my first, from 5 to 10, I went to a school called Lincoln Community School in Accra, which is a top international American school in Ghana. I didn't even know it. I had kids who were the Australian ambassador's kids and the Canadian ambassador's daughter and all these Japanese and Israelis. I was one of only 2 black kids. When I say black American, because there were rich Ghanaian kids there. But that was what really put it in my head to live globally. And now the technology we have, because Thailand has some of the best internet in the world, You can manage your finances from anywhere in the world. So that's a roundabout way about how it's actually the mindset, that the technology is the tool, but your mindset gives you the wherewithal to manage your life from wherever you are.
Okay, to follow up with that, can you explain the long-term and short-term investment strategies that have worked best for you since you've been an expat?
So, as I said, I was married for 22 years back in the States.
Mhm.
And in the case of me, somebody being married and then having kids, as soon as you have those kids, the first thing you do is you buy them whole life insurance policies. Now, before we go further, I am not a licensed financial planner. I am not registered to give advice. This is just your Uncle Dan talking, give you what I've learned and what my dad taught me. And so people say, well, isn't that morbid that you're buying an insurance policy for a little baby? He says, no, we're all going to die, but no, you're not banking on the child dying. But and the white folk understand this. As soon as a kid is born in the family, they buy a whole life policy. So you get the kid's a baby, by the kid's 22, 23 years old, that whole life policy has a cash value. And that cash value, you can borrow against it for your first house purchase, to start a business, to move overseas. So that's the first thing. Now, certain people are entrepreneurs, certain people are salary people, and then people like me going to the military. I look at that as a vocation. It's not a normal job. I had to sign on a dotted line, sign away some of my rights in order to get the training and travel and all that. But we have investment vehicles. In the military, we have what's called thrift savings plan. In the civilian world, somebody works for IBM or AT&T or Jiffy Lube, you have 401k. You have a certain percentage you put in. Do the maximum. If your company matches 5%, you put in 5%, they're going to match that. It's free money to you. They're putting money on the table. Now, somebody like Austin, who had his own business, he does not have the ability to have a 401k with matching. Well, there's something called a Roth IRA, which anybody can open. And the max you can put into a Roth, I think, is $7,500 a year. You know, LeBron James, although a millionaire, still maxes out his Roth contributions every year. Now, what's the difference? Is that Roth IRA is you've already paid tax on that money. So when you're 59 and a half and you take that money out, you're not going to pay taxes on it. My son is 22. He's an Army lieutenant out in Fort Bliss, Texas, out in El Paso. But he had work before he went in, and he's paranoid about each year maxing out his Roth IRA. My dad still does. I do. And he does. Well, I don't work anymore, so I can't do it anymore. You have to have income coming in. And that money is set aside for you in the future. And like I said, we all use Vanguard. Vanguard's number one at about 8.6 billion. And then there's Fidelity, and then there's Schwab, the big investment firms. And they make it very easy for people to do. I mean, I'm a knucklehead. And if I can do it, all y'all can do it. You started a business, Austin. You had a business you started. I've never done that. I was just a dumb Marine getting a salary in the first 15. So they should listen to what you did, how you did it, and how you, at your age, you're far ahead of me and my peers.
Okay, so that was more so long-term and short-term. What would you say is the short-term strategy? Was that the Roth IRA you were speaking of, this short-term?
That's long-term. You
Okay.
start putting in as soon as you work, you fill out a form, which is your W-4 withholding form. You start getting paid. Your first job, 15, 16, 17. The minute you have a job where you get a pay stub and they withdraw taxes, you can open up a Roth IRA. Now, why is it called Roth? It was named after Senator Roth from Delaware, who first put in this legislation. Okay, so all of you out there, if you're working a job and you're getting a pay stub, call up one of those big brokerage firms and open up this IRA. Plain and simple. You have a little bit of savings. I know it's hard for young people to think, well, I need my money now. I cannot put aside $300 per pay period. But trust me, it will pay off in the long run. I'm just Googling right now to change it. Maximum Roth IRA contribution for 2024 is $7,000 for those under 50 and $8,000 for 50 or older. So let's do this. 7,000 divided by 12 comes out to be $583 a month. So instead of taking a car note on a Hellcat, you ever see those videos where say how much your car note? $1,000, $700. Why? Put in $600, $583 a month to max out your, because you have to be making at least $7,000 a year. So if you're making less, you can only go to that point right there. But it will compound every year because of how you mentioned index funds. You mentioned stocks. So when you call up Roth, you call it Vanguard, you call it Fidelity, or you call it Schwab, you say, hey, I'm Tyrone Jenkins, and I'm assistant manager down at local Jiffy Lube, and I make $33,000 a year. And they'll say, okay, great, we'll open up your account. And they'll say, well, you're young, you can have more risk. We have some international funds that bundle together the best international companies. You can with funds backed by gold. There are funds that are backed by the S&P Spider Index. You talk about the Standard & Poor's Index, which has mainly the technology companies. They look at the top technology companies and buy a slice of each one. So essentially, you're giving your money to Vanguard or Schwab, and those smart money people are packaging your money of everybody else's money. You can't necessarily buy shares of Apple, but if you're in this pot of money, you will become an Apple shareholder, a Tesla shareholder, a SpaceX shareholder, and your money's going to compound. So it's dum-dum proof. You don't have to think about managing your money when there are experts that do it for you.
Okay. That was some really good information you gave. I just learned myself as well about the Roth IRA. So how many different types of financial accounts do you manage, and what specific purposes does each one serve?
Well, like I just said, I don't manage them. I've got really smart people at Vanguard who do it, and the smart people who have my insurance policies. So I've got 3 kids. Each of my kids has a whole life insurance policy that, bless my dad, he had the foresight, so he bought it when they were little. And my little boy, out of my 3 kids, is an Army lieutenant. I have a separate policy for him that I'm paying. It's only $6 a month. $6 a month for a $100,000 life policy. Now, he doesn't really need it right now because he doesn't have a wife. He doesn't have kids. He doesn't have property that he has to protect. But he can scale that up. The whole point is that if the young people get into the insurance early, the costs are smaller. If you're old like me and you want to buy an insurance policy, your premium is going to be much, much higher because I'm old and broken down. A young guy like my boy Cal in the chat, he's a young guy in New York City. He's doing well. He's in his 40s. He'll pay less. But a young buck like you're not even 25 yet, are you?
No.
Yeah. You get into insurance now, and it'll be dirt cheap for you. And then when you're 45, you got that there. So the whole thing is getting in early so that your policy, your premiums are smaller. So for us older guys, yeah, I've got a $1 million life policy on myself through a military affiliated group. I'm paying $99 a month, which is good. It's a 10-year term. But I'm healthy. I'm a non-smoker, all that stuff, other than cigars. I never mentioned that. But somebody close to 60 trying to buy a $1 million policy, they'll pay $700 a month for it. But I bought it years ago and I only got it for $99 a month. But now that I'm divorced, my kids are grown, I sold everything in the States, I just let that policy lapse. I don't need any more life insurance. The VA is going to, when I croak, the VA is going to cremate me, put me in an urn, they'll bury me free. Another benefit of being in the military, you get free burial.
So the first question is from Legacy Tears. Thank you for the $5 super chat. I was working in banking. Thoughts on I-bonds? This high-level game. Salute, awesome. Thank you for the super chat.
Yeah, bonds are something that My dad does, big money guy. And a buddy of mine just said, bonds, treasury bills, just drop 50,000 into treasury bills. And I never had that cash liquidity in my married time to do it. But that's something there that if you have the ability to do it, to definitely go ahead and do it. I mean, I would not recommend somebody not doing it, but because of the thing with the bonds is if you buy enough in bonds, then it's guaranteed money by the U.S. government, and you can live off those dividends, the revenues, the interest that you get from the government.
Okay. The next super chat is from Calvin King, like you brought up. He sent a $20 super chat for currently watching the show, listening, and giving my support to both of you. Thank you very much for the super chat.
Thanks, Cal. You're the man.
So the next one I have is so how many accounts would you say that someone should aim to have if they're an expat living abroad to have that slow growth of income?
So let's go back a little bit, since I'm in a unique case that I'm able to be fully retired, and but it should be transparent. What accounts you have in the U.S. should still be the same that you have when you're living overseas, because we can manage them. So let's say, like I said, a guy's in Houston and he's working for AT&T and he's making 75 grand a year, regular guy, and he's got his 401k. That's one account. He's got his Roth IRA. That's a second account. He's got his life insurance policy. That's a third account. He's not necessarily married, but he got his whole life policy when he was young, because one day, he wants to go ahead and buy a house out in Sugar Land, and then he needs money to put down on that. So that's 3 accounts right there. But you can open up only one Roth account, but you can open up another vehicle, certificates of deposit, which right now, if interest rates going up, and you can only say, if you're with Navy Federal Credit Union, you can only buy one from them, but then you can go to Wells and buy one, and there's brokerage houses where you can buy. So with a certificate, all it is, it's a high interest savings account, and you give it to them, and it's locked. 6 months, 1 year, 5 years, you can't touch it. And I remember everybody was so happy years ago when the mortgage interest rates and interest rates for cars were down to like 1%, 2%. They were happy, but savings weren't paying anything. But now savings accounts are paying 4.5%. So you can take $1,000, go to your local bank, sit down, put it on the table, and they'll generate 4.5%. You pay yourself first. And it's not a matter of how much money you make, it's how much you spend. Austin, you've seen my flat. You've seen where I live here. Another reason why I live here, because on the street, I can eat off the street for $5 a day. For my dinner tonight, what did I made tuna salad, and I had some tomato soup. But the night before, I made a nice Wagyu filet. It's all on your mindset. And I mentioned Kiyosaki's book, but I bought a couple of books with me when I left, and this is one of them. Everybody should get this book.
I've read that book.
It's over about 40, 50 years old. Think and Grow Rich, and it's updated, and it's rah-rah, and it gives you inspiration, and I keep it tabbed, and I go ahead and read it. And then the next book I have, you see this right here? 4-column book, and this is all my receipts for every month. At the end of the month, I take open this book. Yeah, you can use Rocket Money, and you can use other things like that. But I write in there, I don't know if you can see it, I got groceries, I got utilities, I got everything that's eating out. I write down, I reconcile at the end of each month what I spent. Personal, debauchery, whatever. And I learned this from my dad, whose wife happens to be from China. She keeps them, and she sits at the end of them. I said, Dad, what the heck is she doing? And he's a certified public accountant, retired CFO. He taught me everything I knew about money. But I was in my late 40s when I learned to keep a book and then look at all of my darn expenses for the month. Half of us 90%, my dad calls them 90%ers, don't know where their fucking money goes. Excuse me for cursing.
Yeah, I would
You
agree
get
with that.
money, your money manages you.
Exactly. Yeah, it's very important to keep track of your expenses. I check everything all day constantly because I have to make sure I know everything that I'm spending. So your advice to managing money was keeping track of your expenses and having someone at Vanguard manage the accounts and do all the working for you is what you advise.
Yes, and one of those big firms, because it's dumb proof, where you would send your money. So for those who are entrepreneurs, and you're an entrepreneur, so people wonder, well, what does that mean? It means somebody, quote Kiyosaki, an entrepreneur is somebody who knows how to make money. An entrepreneur isn't necessarily somebody who gives a few bucks and they're selling Herbalife on the side or slimming tea or things like that. They find a need and then they go ahead and they leverage it with their skills to generate revenue. You were generating revenue cutting hair, but you stumbled across generating revenue through YouTube, which didn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
See?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's money to be made out there. Now, looking at in the case of me being here in Thailand, I got a good buddy, my good brother, been here for 8 years. He's a personal trainer. He's like the ghetto David Goggins, ripped like him, everything. He's here on a teaching visa because that's one of the ways you can get a visa to live here. He teaches English only 1 day a week. The other 6 days a week, he's a personal trainer. And he's been here for 8 years doing it. And everybody knows him. And so there's ways that you can use the system or whatever country you want to live in. And here in Thailand, they have visas for if you want to be if you work, say you're that guy that works remote for AT&T, you don't have to come into work. If you work for a major corporation, you get a visa to stay here. They have them in Colombia. They have them in Dubai. They have them in Portugal. There's places all over the world that want you and your talents to come, and they're not going to charge you taxes, and you're going to spend less money. So why wouldn't you want to pick up and live overseas?
Yeah,
so that's
exactly.
part of it, as opposed to being an old goat like me.
I would agree. Yeah, I would agree. So would you say that living that minimalist lifestyle made you invest more aggressively or conservatively?
It made me, well, as you get older, you get more conservative. And it's funny you mentioned minimalist. And I mentioned, briefly, I got divorced 7 years ago. Well, when I went through the worst part of my divorce, my dad went through it, my best friends went through it, and they said, Dan, when you go through your divorce, you're going to eat Franks and beans for a few years, but then you're going to be all right. So I don't want to say at my lowest point, but in 2018, I had come back from UAE where I was making mid 6 figures as a consultant, had to come home to finish all this divorce child support stuff, living in my dad's basement in Charlottesville, Virginia, and I was making $12 an hour loading bags at the airport.
Really?
And that was in 2018. I was 52 years old, out there in the rain, the snow, the sun, with these young millennials hoofing bags, which I'd done before September 11th. So I knew what I was doing, and I was out working them. But I'll come home at night, beat, body hurt. But you talk about minimalist. Down there in Central Virginia, I met people at the airport working there full time, making 35, 40, 45,000, who owned homes, who were married, who were putting their kids through school, and they were doing it out in the countryside, away from the big city where the cost of living was less. So that's when I realized my ex-wife had the big house. She had the kids. She had the cat. I was paying alimony. I was paying child support. I had nothing, and I'm working with these other people who on paper had nothing, but they were happier. They were doing better. And sure enough, another job came. I did that for about 8 months, and I went back overseas. That's where I met you, because it was right after COVID. I'm sitting there in Abu Dhabi watching you online. But that being at my lowest, working hourly, post 50 years old, I knew I was going to get my Marine retirement eventually, but until then I had to work. So there's no shame in doing hard work. Other guys probably would have sat on the couch and cried about it. I said, fuck, I got to get up. I got to do something. But minimalist, we don't need a lot. I've got this. You've been to my place, everything like where Austin is staying now, Airbnb. Here in Thailand, when you rent a place, it's fully furnished. So 2 bedrooms, 2 bath, all the furniture. All I did was buy me a nicer television. That's it.
Wow.
The internet I had to get. The electricity, I was just bitching today about the electricity. My electric bill is $184 for the month of May because it's summer here, so the rate is high. But my internet, my TV, and my cell phone all bundled are only about $100 a month. And then whatever I eat. But all the furniture, everything's in here. It's turnkey.
Wow. Okay, I didn't know that they all come fully furnished like that. That's amazing. That's very convenient.
Yeah,
So,
and that goes to the minimalist thing that
yeah.
you can. I came here with 3 suitcases and a box, and I've gotten rid of stuff. They sell underwear, they sell T-shirts, they sell toothpaste, everything. Amazon delivers here free. You can get whatever you need. So, fellas, if you can't pack up everything in 3 suitcases, throw it in your truck and go, you got too much stuff. Get rid of all.
I would agree. So your minimalist lifestyles consist of 3 suitcases, moving into furnished apartments, and keeping track of the amount of money you spend and spending the least amount of money that you can and investing the rest. Okay.
Yep. But you were here. You saw that we had fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
So being a minimalist doesn't mean you don't have fun. A guy just needs a PS5. That's why I joke with these girls. I say, I want a PS5 for my birthday. And they're like, what games do you play? I said, I don't play any because I don't have a video game. But fellas, we go to the gym and we play video games and we chase skirts. That's all we need.
So in terms of investment, what have you found to be the most significant difference between dealing with assets in Thailand compared to your home country? I guess, I don't know, can you buy like bonds in another country like in Thailand?
I haven't been here in Thailand long enough, but you can buy assets. You can buy condos. You can buy homes, but you can't own the property underneath. And now, before anybody says, oh man, that's wild, when you go to Hawaii, it's the same thing. If you ever visit Hawaii, only people who have native Hawaiian blood can own the property. You can be from Missouri, Texas, Pennsylvania, Florida. And if you move to Hawaii and you want to buy a house, it's leasehold or freehold, where you're buying it, but you only can own it for like 99 years. But the actual dirt under it, you cannot own it. Same thing here in Thailand. You're in a building and 50% of the building has to be owned by Thai people. The other 50%, foreigners can own condos in the building. The United States is the only country where we let foreigners come in and buy up all our precious property.
Yeah.
You see? Whereas, same thing when I lived in Abu Dhabi. Dubai was just up the road. A lot of investors from here are doing what? They're buying condos in Dubai, thinking they'll have Airbnbs and rent them out. Also, Thais love Japan. Japan is a dying country because of their demographics. They're getting older, and their birth rate is down. I walk through the mall, and there are all these big kiosks. Buy property in Japan. The same thing. You can own the condo, but not own the building. You see, because the Japanese love coming to Thailand. The Thais love going to Japan to see the snow. My condo, you've been here, is about 80% Japanese living in this building, which is great because they're very polite, they're very quiet, they're very neat, very, very sweet people. So, but here in this traditional society, gold is the big thing. And then, hey, Professor Mex, mi hermano, this brother here, he sends me all the updates because he trains firefighters and youth firefighters in Mexico. And he sends so much stuff. Hey, Professor, you send me so much stuff on the Instagram. I cannot respond to all of it, but thank you for sending it to me and keeping me updated on it. I got to get back to Mexico. If I wasn't here, I'd be in Mexico.
Okay.
But I
Yeah.
ran into a big crypto community here too.
Mm-hmm.
A bloke that I met, and they have these crypto mixers, and the guy who's the president is an American who actually he played Division I basketball at Oregon. Big white guy. I forget his name. And his number one guy is this Singaporean guy who went to Boston College. And he says, Dan, we're having an event. You want to come? And he likes it when I come because I bring cigars. As always keep cigars on me. But there's a huge crypto community here. And a lot of people in China who are doing Bitcoin left because China outlawed Bitcoin. So they went to Singapore, Malaysia, and came here. So I got out of crypto a few years ago. I divested everything so I'd have my money to move here. But yeah, I've got a play account on Coinbase where I get into various coins, and that's what a lot of young people like doing.
Mm-hmm.
See, if you're young and you can accept more of the risk, you can do crypto anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I would agree. Okay, so well, you already brought that up about owning real estate in the United States, so you pretty much answered that. So how do you approach investing in stocks and ETFs and cryptocurrency, since you just brought up cryptocurrencies? I know you use
So
Vanguard for. Go ahead.
yeah, so for your traditional investments, for instance, my son, who's a lieutenant, when he was 16, 17, I set up a Vanguard account for him. It was a custodial account. Another thing, if you have kids, you can open up accounts for them and you're the custodian. So start the savings. So when he graduated and I says, look, here's your statements. He said, what? You have all this money for me? I said, yeah. Then when he turned 21, he took control of her. And he took that custodian account, showed that he was working, opened up the Roth and moved that money over. And like I said, you can put in that $7,000 a year. You have until April 15th tax time. But this bastard, he wants to have it done. He's already maxed out his 401, his Roth for the year. You see, so you open up that account for your kids, and he's got a Schwab account also, where you can have like a Schwab One checking account, high interest checking, that you put your money in that earns more than Navy Federal or Wells Fargo or Chase.
Okay,
And
so
go ahead.
you would recommend Schwab and Vanguard to use for investments with stocks and ETFs?
Yeah, like I said, the top three are Vanguard, Fidelity, and Schwab.
Okay.
Vanguard, Fidelity don't really offer checking accounts, but Schwab offers a checking account where you get a debit card and you get a credit card through them also for your Roth. But call. They have 800 numbers, and they're very, very friendly. So don't take my word on it. Do your own damn research. We're too lazy. Don't listen to us talking heads on the screen. Do your own research. Call each one of them. Get your little notepad out. I always keep little notepads here. See, I got this one. I'm working out some bills and stuff right here. And you do the pros and cons of each one. Now, as far as crypto, like I said, I had a Coinbase account that I reopened. My buddy said, "Hey, we got a tip on this. Coinbase it's an app on your phone where you go ahead and you can purchase crypto. You can purchase Bitcoin through Cash App." And that is very, very stable. Bitcoin and gold are not going anywhere. But you have what's called alternative coins, which like Gala Coin and Gala Music. Like my buddy's company here is Gala, GALA. That's very inexpensive, but it's going to. They're waiting for the Bitcoin split to happen. If it hasn't happened already, it should happen in April. Just to show you, I haven't been doing my homework lately. But once that Bitcoin split happens, prices drop. Then you jump into market and you do buy. And I'm like, remember we used to ride the SkyTrain here. And for those you don't know, they have a fantastic subway system, SkyTrain system here in Bangkok. Everybody has their headphones on. It's quiet as a tomb. They're looking on it. You figure they're watching YouTube or they're watching TikToks. They're looking at the charts for the crypto. I just happened to look over. when those bums are taking too much time on the leg press machine, he's sitting there looking at the graphs. So they're very astute over here when it comes to the Bitcoin training.
Okay. So that being said, what about the tax implications in investing in those assets like crypto and stocks and real estate as well?
So I remember I was listening to you yesterday when you were talking to the brother who was saying that the taxes were really whacking him. Who was the guy you talking to yesterday?
Who was that? I know we had a guy come on that said he was a financial advisor, but who was that said that the tax was whacking?
He wasn't an advisor. He was a guy who was traveling. But you mentioned to him the U.S. foreign earned income exclusion.
Oh, checking effect.
Yes. So does he live in Czechoslovakia?
No, he said his name is actually Czech, but it has nothing to do with the country.
So where is he now?
He's from Miami, but he said he was in Mexico yesterday.
Gotcha. So you're to the audience out there, you're working for a firm or you're a digital creator, and you can't really see it, but I'm in my condo, but there's a building right over here. I can look straight into it. And somebody moved in directly across from me, and the light was always on. It was this white boy, and he's walking around with his big Bose headphones. He's working all night long, and his light was pissing me off because it would come in, he'd burn it all day and all night. I ran to him in the street. I stopped. Hey, what are you doing? And he came over. He's an Aussie. I said, you moved in across from me. Your light's burning. I said, oh, does it bother you? I said, yeah, it's at night. I ran a grill up trying to watch TV. He's an Aussie who's working a remote, but he works those weird friggin' hours. And so I met him, and I look at him, and the number of folks working nomad lifestyle is blowing my mind. And I only recognize it because he's walking the street with those big gray Bose headphones on. Well, now he keeps his light off because he got his first electric bill. I said, dude, electricity is expensive here, relatively speaking. But if you are an American and you are out of the country for 335 days of the year, you do not, your first $109,000 is tax-free. That's what it was a few years ago. Let me just check it out.
And that's the net profit, again, to reiterate, right?
Yep, foreign earned income exclusion. Oh, wow. For your 2023 tax filing, the maximum exclusion is $120,000 of foreign earned income. Just a few years ago, it was only 109. So if you're outside of the U.S. for 335 days at least, then you get that. So if you earn $75,000, that's less than $120,000. So you don't pay any tax on it. And that affects your AGI, your adjusted gross income. When you fill out your tax form, you work for AT&T and you put down $75,000, and then you minus the 120, it's in the negative. Your adjusted gross income is negative. There were years where my adjusted gross income was negative 10,000, negative 5,000. You see, so folks don't know that, and I didn't get a fancy tax preparer, which you can get when we were in UAE, and over here you can get a good accountant for like $2,000. I tell young black men, always get a good CPA to do your taxes and have a good criminal defense lawyer on retainer at all times. So you can call them, they're there for you. It's money well spent. But since my dad was a CPA, he taught me everything I needed to know. And I used the H&R Block software and have the 800 number. And I really don't have a lot of assets. But if you're a businessman like Austin, then you have more streams of income coming in that you have to be careful for. So don't pay for the Challenger or the Hellcat. Find a good accountant and just pay them the money and have them take care of your business for you. But if you're overseas, you're not going to pay that tax, basically. And the visa that I'm under a long-term retirement visa, and Thailand doesn't charge me any taxes. Dubai didn't charge any taxes. Abu Dhabi didn't charge any taxes. And I also, under my visa, I have an e-work permit. If I wanted to work, if I wanted to consult, I could start working here, because that's a big thing. Folks come here and they say, well, how do I get a job? A lot of people ask you all the time, Austin, how do I get a job overseas? And then you came out with your book and you had the list. How many jobs did you recommend when people pay for your list of how
It's
to
300. 300.
Exactly. Remind them real quick about these overseas jobs you told them about.
So a lot of them are call center jobs, which pay around $20 an hour, which in the States, that's pretty much, what you should be making. But you got to remember, $20 an hour is $100 an hour in Brazil. In most countries in Africa, it's $80 to $120, and you would live the equivalent of that lifestyle in those countries. And it's a free list. So if you guys have not already, it's always, where is that listed? I know it's on theaustinholloman.com, but I believe that I always put it in my description of my videos. So if you have not already, download it if you're looking for opportunities to live abroad.
And it's funny because when I lived in Abu Dhabi, most of the Americans there were school teachers. And my one buddy, his wife was a principal at a school, and he was doing some real estate, but he lost his job. He applied and got hired by American Airlines at $26 an hour to be a call center person at home. So he flew back to DFW, to Dallas, Fort Worth. That's what a big hub is for American. Stayed with relatives, and he did training for 8 weeks. They gave him his laptop, his little headphones, gave him all his darn training. He packed it all up and then went back to Abu Dhabi, living under, the wife's housing, the wife's visa and all that stuff, answering calls from Americans in America for American Airlines, living in Abu Dhabi. Dum-dum proof. They're hurt for that kind of work. So any type of remote work that you have, pick up and do it. And it's funny you mentioned remote work, a call center. I'm in a chamber of commerce here, and I met this bloke, and he's in oil and gas, and he says, Dan, do you know any English speakers? I'm opening a call center here in Thailand. I cannot find enough people. Now, the salary based on experience is only about $600 a month, which is the average salary for a Thai. But an American coming over here who's making money, you want to make extra money, an extra $600 tax free, that's your rent right there. That's rent for a nice place. But you can get a place for $350 a month, a studio with the full kitchen, with the rooftop infinity pool and everything, the gym, everything included.
Okay, so speaking of those taxes, though, what is your current tax setup like? Do you recommend LLC, S corp, which that I don't think so for that one, but I'm just throwing something out there, or sole proprietor? And how has it evolved since you became an expat?
So if you are an employee for a firm working remote, you don't have to worry about the LLC and the S corp and all that stuff. But if you are an independent contractor, so remember we keep talking about my buddy about the example. He works for AT&T making $75,000.
Mm-hmm.
Well, his buddy, who's from Sugar Land also, is an independent contractor. Instead of getting a W-2 statement at the end of the year, he gets a 1099 form from the company. AT&T says, we paid this person $75,000, but they don't take out any taxes. So what you do is you can set up an LLC, which is very easy to do. You find an accountant who can do it. I have my girl in Virginia, $375. She incorporated me in Virginia. And then I took that form and I went to Wells Fargo Bank, and Wells Fargo has business accounts. You only have to keep $500 in it, and there's no fees. So I had my LLC because I was going to do some independent consulting before I moved over here. So it's not daunting. LLC stands for a limited liability corporation. And you as a person set up the corporation. You're the principal. Everything you own is in that corporation. And it's funny, there's a way where you get your business account, then you get your business credit cards, and then all your travel, all your meals, you put that on your business credit card and you write that off on your taxes at the end of the year. So I have many friends who have that. Now, me, like I said, being retired, and I've backed away from, because I've got income coming in. Well, Dan, where do you get your money from? I have my retirement and I have my VA disability, which is not earth-shattering amounts of money, but I'm not in debt. So it's more than enough for me to maintain my lifestyle. So I really don't have the drive and the desire. So I just closed down my LLC. I closed out my business account because I'm not going to do that stuff anymore. But for you young guys who are hungry, who have a skill, who are selling something, if you're a copywriter, if you're over here teaching English, if you're doing consultations, like when people pay for the consultations, you run that through your corporation. You see? And so that's that. I had one of those vehicles ready to go in case I was going to do work over here. But I found that I didn't have to. Limited liability corporation, find an accountant. They can open one up for you. They'll register you. Each state has an agency that registers business. You got to think of a name for it. And mine was Dantronic. My name's Dan. Years ago, I said, yeah, start a company named Dantronics with an X. And that's what it was, Dantronics LLC. You got to think of a name that's unique. And so they registered that. And then, but as soon as you register it, you're going to get all this junk mail from companies trying to give you lines of credit. Let us fund you here, open up a call center, do this and that, because they get access to those records and they want to spam you and try and solicit you as soon as you start a corporation.
So absolutely. And I would advise everybody having an LLC just on standby, just in case, like you said, and to take advantage of the tax benefits. So do you have a bank that you use in Thailand?
Yes, I use SCB Bank.
Okay,
so I am commercial bank.
So would you say that is a challenge when it comes to your taxes? Because I know the United States, if you have a foreign bank, they want to know a lot of, there's a lot more forms you have to fill out, and there's a lot more information you have to give for having a foreign bank.
Sure. So when each country is different, but here in Thailand, you cannot open up a bank account unless you're on a certain type of visa. And so I'm under that certain type of visa, and I had the forms, and I went to the bank, and they said, "Oh, you're an American." I said, "Yes." And they pulled out an IRS form. Like, God damn it, I can't get away from the IRS. And I needed my Social Security number. They had to run it because the IRS is so concerned about money laundering and offshore money coming into the States and this and that and other thing. And so I moved here in August. I did taxes this year. They asked about it, but all my money goes to Wells Fargo. And then I use another app called Wise to transfer from Wells Fargo to Siam Commercial Bank. And my money comes over in about 10 minutes. They charge a very small fee. I used to do a wire transfer from Wells Fargo, even though I was in Abu Dhabi, wire transfer between banks. They would charge like $46 and it would take 3 or 4 days. And then just the YouTube algorithm, I found a young white guy in Europe talking about money transfer services, and it's WISE. It's an app. It's on your computer. You can get the card. I have no problem with it. I love Wise to death that their money comes so quickly. So each month I just transfer over my rent, my little mad money, and that's it. You save, because since I have the ATM card here for the local bank, I don't get charged the fees. It's only the U.S. charges fees if you're Wells and go to Chase. Now, they might say you have a special account and you have like 5 different transactions per month. But over here in Abu Dhabi, they don't care. It's like any ATM machine you can use. They won't give you a fee on it.
Okay. Yeah, Wise is great. Wise actually locked me out of my account, though, and I haven't been able to get it back. For whatever reason, I just opened it one day and said that my account was at high risk. I don't even understand why I would say that, but it is a good service.
Did you try Revolt? That's another one.
Yeah, I have that one. And I have the card.
Revolt works for you?
Yes.
Okay. Are they as fast as Wise?
Wise is more convenient, and Wise has more currencies, but the other one works about the same.
Okay, that's good.
So, from your experience, what are the key considerations when investing in real estate as an expat in Thailand? I don't think you've invested in real estate in Thailand, though,
And the
correct?
only reason why I don't invest in real estate is, and I divested of everything that I had in the US, is I want to be free. Like I said, 3 suitcases, pick up and go. Like Macaulay says, in that movie Heat, you do not want to be attached to anything that you cannot leave in 30 seconds if you feel the heat around the corner. I want to be a dot on the horizon. I just want to be poof, gone.
I would agree with that as well. Like, I want to buy real estate, but I think about that all the time. Like, that's a real responsibility that you can't just up and leave. Like, right now, I'm at a peace of mind because I can just, let me go over here, just bring my suitcases, gone. But if I have something keeping me to a certain, that's actually tying me there. Maybe one day I will, but not right now. Malik Quelly says, with $5, he's right. I'm 51 and all I want to do is retire in 3 years, move to the Philippines and travel the world. Don't need to flash and bling no more. Thank you for the super chat.
Nope.
Yes, a minimalist lifestyle is way better. You have way more money in your pocket. I would agree. So
it's funny. It's like I said, my son just moved to El Paso in the Army. He'll be 23 in July. And he met all these other lieutenants. And it's great because he's meeting all these other lieutenants who've been a little bit longer. But the African lieutenants and the Caribbean lieutenants, like, hey, their money acumen is higher than the U.S. kids because a lot of them, he says, already own 1 or 2 rental homes. He's like, Dad, these guys are buying homes. They go to one base, they buy a home, they rent it. They go to another base and buy a home and rent it. I really want to be pre-qualified and buy a home. And I'm like, pump your brakes. Because when you own a property, you're tied to it. And sure enough, he's going to El Paso to look for a place. And he's renting a room from another lieutenant who went to West Point. The kid was panicking because the kid is getting shipped out for a year and a half and had nobody to rent his place, fully furnished. But in the little lieutenant network, my son is a Kappa like me, and the lieutenants were alphas, and they spoke. Said, my fraternity brother needs somebody to essentially pay the rent and house sit while he's off for a year and a half. Dylan slid right on in. And they said, you see, you could own property. I've known so many people in the military who've owned properties all around Camp Pendleton, Fort Stewart, Fort Lewis, and they move out and they can't find people to rent their dang homes. So they're paying a mortgage on an empty ass house. Meanwhile, they're overseas.
Agreed.
Plain and simple. So that's something hanging around your neck, and I just don't want to have to deal. So many people say, "Well, Dan, why didn't you buy something in Dubai?" Nope, don't want to. Why don't you buy something here? Don't want to.
Agreed. So, are you familiar with the steps that it would take to open let's say, a restaurant in Bangkok?
Yes. So traditionally, and this goes also for business in Dubai, because I knew a brother who had a barbershop in Dubai, one of the best barbers in Dubai. He was not a UAE citizen. He was from Jordan. And you have to have a citizen, a Thai citizen, on the paper with you as the co-owner who owns 51% of the business. And you can find these people through law firms, through accountancy firms, and they just act as a pass-through. And I know many folks who have businesses here, who own restaurants, who own little bars. And it's just the freedom in America doesn't exist in these other countries, where somebody can come across the border from Guatemala into the U.S. and get a driver's license, get a cell phone, get a line of credit, start a business without having an American as their partner. But over here, you have to have a partner. But there is certain, let's see, Thailand Amity Treaty. There's something called the U.S.-Thai Amity Treaty, which signed in 1966. It gives special rights and benefits to American citizens who wish to establish their businesses in Thailand. So all the geniuses out there in the chat, just Google search US-Thai, Thai, Amity, Amity treaty. I found this out through an Australian who comes back and forth in business. Says, Dan, you as an American have an advantage here that we other foreigners don't have, which is this Amity Treaty. Now, it was signed in '66, Vietnam. Why they did it, I have no clue. And they have services that help you set it up. So we as Americans have an inside track on owning businesses here. I haven't really delved into it. I got to call my boy up, Christian, and find out more about it and speak to one of the big law firms about it. And if the opportunity presents itself, I mentioned it to Dad. He's like, hey, I'll send over some venture money and maybe we'll start a little business. I don't know. But that's one of the benefits of our blue passport and the treaties that the U.S. has with certain countries.
So what would you say is the challenges of opening a business in Thailand?
The challenge is finding that partner here that you can trust and that the legal system and understanding the legal system here. Now, through my contacts at the Australian Chamber of Commerce, I've met several lawyers of different firms who have been in business here, like Siam Legal, that there are U.S. and European lawyers who are licensed to practice here, and they charge a fee to be the intermediary. But you could be in a Thai courtroom, not for anything criminal, but for corporate negotiations or something. You don't speak the language. You don't know the traditions. You don't know the ins and out of the business. So you have to ask yourself, is the juice worth the squeeze to be over here, to open up that business? And so you have to get that proper legal advice. So if anybody's interested, my buddy works at Siam Legal International, or you can go to the U.S. Embassy website here, and they will list the Amity Treaty, and they will recommend lawyers here for you. So if that's something you guys want to do your research, contact the nice people. I'm not giving an endorsement, but I've seen them publicized. I know folks are there, Siam Legal, and they can talk to you in depth about that. But to your other point, I know many, many foreigners who have businesses here, not just Americans, but Chinese, Burmese, Vietnamese, over here, Arabs who are over here who are very, very successful with their businesses. It's just that my point in life is just, even back in the States, I never had the desire to have a business. You started your barbershop business. How old were you?
22.
Yeah. You knew you never wanted to work for somebody. You started your business. I just never had that in me to do it. I was just a dumb Marine. I was just happy getting paid to run around and jump out of helicopters and stuff like that.
I can understand that. So what cultural factors should foreigners consider when investing in another country? For example, and I know in a lot of parts of Africa, and I've even heard in Thailand, like they do things at their own pace, and they show up. It's not uncommon for them to show up late to work. Or in Africa, they move very slow throughout the job. It takes 40 minutes sometimes in some parts of Africa to bring food. Do you know any other cultural factors in the places you've been to that would be important for somebody that wants to start a business outside of the United States?
It's just funny you mention it because back in the States, we talk about CP time. Over here, it's Thai time.
Yeah.
And so whether you're dating a young girl or you meet somebody for business, just expect them to be late. And Japanese are on time, Swiss are on time, Germans are on time. You just have to, when I lived in the Middle East, the people in the Gulf countries were on time, would always leave early, just sort of like fade away. You're like, where did Hassan go? Oh, he left an hour ago. So why didn't he tell me? I've been waiting. I was supposed to have a meeting with him. And you just roll with it. You have to understand the culture of the places that you've been to. Like when you're in Brazil, are girls on time for dates?
In Brazil they are, but in Colombia they're not. In Peru they are. In Argentina it's a cultural thing for them to flake and not even show up.
Really?
Yeah.
Whereas in Japan, they are fastidious. They are there on time. That country runs like a clock. And it's a shame. They feel shame if they're late. Where, they just text me, oh, I'm leaving now. I'm like, all right, fine. Well, it's funny. I had a date a few days ago with a girl from Singapore, and she was on it. She sent me her live location on the SkyTrain. I'm 2 stops away. I'm 1 stop away. I'm walking here. She had a picture right where she was. You see, and then I was supposed to meet her the next day at Terminal 21, and I was running a little late. Trains running slow. She's like, where are you? Where are you? I said, chill. So why are you mad? I said, because you keep asking me where I am. She said, well, I'm worried about you. I says, don't worry about me. Worry about the people around me. Then her lips started to quiver. I said, no, I'm sorry. So stop apologizing. It's just we're just different cultures. You were on time. I was not on time because of the train, and you were concerned, but I just, I took it the wrong way because you kept asking me where I was. But I understood now that you just cared about me. And we had a nice afternoon. Got her a smoothie. She was happy. She might be watching. She left and went to Da Nang. She's like, oh, you go to YouTube? I said, sometimes. I'm nobody. I know people who are stars. I'm not a star.
Yeah. Okay. So how do you stay updated on investment opportunities? But you said the guys at Vanguard handle that for you.
Well, you got to read. So pay for the subscription to the Wall Street Journal, and then you just read electronically. You read online. Go ahead and watch CNBC. I read Bloomberg. So my dad's old school. He still gets the Washington Post newspaper delivered every day and reads it cover to cover. Because our uncle taught him, hey, always read the news. But that was like old school after World War II. Just read the newspaper. But you to be successful, you have to know yourself. You have to seek self-improvement. Lawyers and doctors, when they finish law school and med school, they still learning. They have professional journals. They got to read every month. Stuff comes out every month. They have to be up on the latest techniques, the latest scalpel, this and that. The lawyers have to keep up on it. If you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to make money, you have to keep reading. You have to keep your pulse on what the business world is doing. Laws change where you go. Years and years ago, when Sarbanes-Oxley was passed by the U.S. Senate, that put restrictions on corporations. And my dad always says, before Sarbanes-Oxley, we could just spend money. But after Sarbanes-Oxley, we have to account for every paperclip that we buy, especially when it comes to government contracts. So you have to stay up on the latest legislation on the state and local level. And like I said, I hadn't read about the income exclusion. I was off by $11,000. I still thought it was $109,000. It's up to $120,000. You see? Mm-hmm. And so August will be my 1 year overseas. Like when you went home, you were in the States for how long?
3 weeks.
Yeah. So you can come back to the States as long as it stays under 30 days, because there's 365 days in a year, and you can do 335 days. But that doesn't count if you come back for business, you see. And so you were home, you saw mom 3 weeks, poof, you're gone. So your foreign earned income exclusion is still good. And then mine will kick in this is May, June, July, August, in 3 months.
Okay. So can you share an experience where a cultural misunderstanding impacted your investment decisions?
No, I've never invested. Yeah,
I thought so. So how do you balance diversification in your investment portfolio?
What you have to do is, once again, it's outcome driven. What does that mean? You're a young man. You're 24. You're going to live another 60 years. So you can take more risk in your investments. Mm-hmm. You can put your money into tech startups, biomedical startups, international index funds. Mm-hmm. See, but you have to, if you do an international fund, what's happening? We've got wars all over the world that are going to affect. And it's funny because the Biden administration told the Ukrainians, stop bombing the Russian refineries because you're going to drive the price of oil up. Well, guess what? The price of oil just went down. So if you had done a short on oil, saying it was going to go down, you would have made a lot of money. That's counterintuitive, you would think, because Russia is nothing but a big gas station. They were a net oil exporter. But as the Ukrainians take out their refineries, they cannot refine that oil into petroleum products. I'm older, so I have a lower risk tolerance. So I want stable bonds, gold, something that's cash that I'll maybe only make 2 or 3% on it, but I know it's stable. Nothing's going to happen to it. So for the young people, higher risk, higher reward, higher profit on it on the long term. And every year you look at it, and then when you get a wife and a house and kids, you have to bring your risk down because you have other people that you're taking care of. If you stay unmarried, but you're not going to be young forever, you get 30, you can still do some risk. 35, 40, you want to start pulling back on the throttles and moving out of stock funds into more of a bond fund type of thing. So you speak to your financial planner, you look at your goals. If you want more money in the short term, you do more high risk.
Okay.
And that affects your diversification. And for the slow ones in the back of the room, what is diversification? All that means is you have a mix of products. So imagine a pie. 100% of that pie is your money you invest. You do, as a young man, 10% in bonds. Why only 10%, Dan? Because they pay lower interest rates. So you want to make more. The rest of it is in SPDR index fund or an IT growth fund. If something says growth, that's high risk, but you will make more money. And then as you get older, that mix, that diversification, that's sort of like, you date one girl who's black, white, yellow, Puerto Rican, or Haitian. You got one of each. That's diversification. A mix of girls you're dating, same with stocks. A mix of darn investment products.
Wow. Very good information. So what are the advantages? You said that you haven't invested in Thailand. Because my next question, what are the advantages and disadvantages of investing in emerging markets like Thailand? I think that it's just there's a risk that you could lose your money, or it just takes a long time for you to actually see a real return. And it's riskier. It's riskier as in somebody could rip you off and run off with your money. Investing in emerging markets, they don't have the same policies. But the next question after that one is, can you talk about any investments that didn't go as planned, and what lesson did you learn from that? Just in general.
Sure. So I'm looking right now, local shares. Both local and foreign investors can trade local shares, but foreign investors are not entitled to dividends or have voting rights. So as an American, you're living in Sugar Land, or you're living in Camden, New Jersey, or Baltimore, and you buy 2 or 3 shares of Apple, you're going to get a notice that the shareholders meeting is coming. And whether you own 3 shares of Apple or 3,000 shares of Apple, you have voting rights. And then you bought Apple at 50, it goes up to 100, you got a $50 profit. That's your gain. That's your dividend right there. And then they'll pay you certain money. If it splits, you get more money. So they're saying that if you invest in Thai stocks, like local stocks, you can't get dividend because they're protecting their market. They don't want foreigners coming in, because there was George Soros many years ago. This is like the 96 Asian crash. George Soros made his money as a money man, got his wealth as a money manager. And he really pummeled the Thai, the Indonesian, Singapore, Malaysian, I think South Korean. They were called the 5 Tigers. Go Google the 5 Tigers collapse, because these Asian economies were really kicking ass. Everybody was invested. But Soros moved money in and money out and pretty much collapsed the Far East stock market for many years.
Wow.
Exactly.
So we got
So
a couple of super chats from Will. He says, "I'm a business major myself, working globally. Awesome value of self investment and knowledge management skills." Thank you for the super chat. I'm glad you guys see the value in this content. Crown of Enlightenment says, "Awesome. These types of streams are very helpful. Please keep content like this going. Thank you to the older gentleman who's giving knowledge." Thank you for the $5 super chat. Now let's see.
the four Asian tigers, that's what it was. Where did the collapse go?
You may have already answered this. We've got a lot of information, so I'm trying to keep up with everything. But how do you manage your investment portfolio to ensure compliance with both local and home country tax laws? We already talked about the Foreign Earned Income Exclusion Act, but what about the tax in another country? Like I know if you decide to move to Argentina, the first 5 years you're there, they don't tax you. Can you give people advice on what it would be like in Thailand?
So that's the one of the big driving points of us being expats is to go where we can mitigate our tax and not have to pay tax on the money that we make.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a guy called Nomad Capitalist. He's got really good YouTube episodes, but don't do his service. He wants like $10,000-$20,000 to help guys get passports in Comoros Islands or in Trinidad or Barbuda, places like that, these offshore havens. But his little videos are very, 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 very helpful. And there are places where you can go to just lower your tax burden. I mean, if you think about it, we fought the Revolutionary War against Britain over a 2% tax. Now we're paying up to 30% of our taxes. And if we talk about overthrowing the government, oh, you're a radical, you this and that. I'm not talking about overthrowing the government in any way, shape, or form. But that's why we fought for independence from Britain in the first place. And now we're getting strangled with taxes. And so now we have the ability, black man, brother man in America, to take your skills, leave the States until the business climate gets better. A buddy of mine, I was talking, he's a guy who buys bonds. We're in the Marines together, started his own firm, fabulously wealthy. He's got government contracts. He's like, with this administration, it doesn't pay for me to make any money. So he's pulling back on the amount of contracts he's trying to find and the money he's making because he's just getting hamstrung by the U.S. government. He says in a few years, I'm going to stop. He could sell everything now. But certain people get addicted to making the money, the rat race, the excitement of it. And it's really hard for them to say, I'm stopping and picking up. Like when you said you were going to leave the States, I'm sure you have people in your ear saying, you're out of your damn mind. You got a good thing going on here. And you probably doubted yourself too. But when those naysayers came to you and said, Austin, don't go, what did you tell them?
I got to find out the hard way, and I got to do it myself. I know what I'm doing.
And you proved them all wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So, but getting back to the major point of the question, when I was living in the UAE working as a government contractor, I was and the rest of us on the team were all retired military. So one day, at every U.S. embassy, they have what's called a defense attaché. So one day they said, everybody come to the headquarters, you got to sign papers. And what happened was an officer from the U.S. embassy came with these forms, and we as retired officers had to sign this form stating that, yes, we are retired military and we are not violating U.S. laws by divulging secret material or proprietary U.S. information, even though UAE was our ally. We had to do that once a year. I forget exactly what that was called. But why do I mention this? Wherever you go, Colombia, Brazil, South Korea, Japan, Kenya, spend the money and get the two things I told you, the good accountant and the good lawyer, and follow their advice. Certain things, we can find flights on our own. We can find Airbnbs on our own. We can find chicks on our own. But when it comes to your money, pay and have the experts advise you on it. Don't listen to these talking heads. Don't listen to me in Austin. We can point you in the right direction. But get off the schneid. Spend the money to hire the best and the brightest accountant and lawyer, wherever you are, to guide you. That, I think, is that even when you're still in the States, do it. All right? Because at any time, I've known guys who got surprise divorces. My one buddy went to the ATM machine, couldn't get any money out. Why? His wife set him up, had the divorce, froze all the assets. He has access to no money. She had been planning it for months. He had no lawyer. So you got to keep a lawyer or retainer and a tax accountant.
Okay. What strategies do you recommend for currency management? So I know you said that you had a bank account in Thailand. So do you use that as well how do you manage the fluctuation of the value of the Thai baht versus the dollar with the bank account?
Well, the good thing is that I only have to worry about that when I send my money from the U.S. over here. And Wise does one thing about Wise and Revolt is they give the best overnight, the interbank rates. And when you're in Thailand, people who've never been here, there's 5 ATMs on every block, and there's money changing booths. Even in little towns, even in little neighborhoods, there are booths of money changers. You just don't see money changers in the States. We just don't have them. Maybe at the airport, and they charge outrageous fees. But there are certain places where you can change your money over. They got at Terminal 21 at the BTS stop, people are always lined up right there to change money. Me, I go where the locals go. I go to Arab Town down by Soy 1, where all the Arabs have all their hotels and whatnot and restaurants. And for some reason, they give the best rates over there. But I really don't have to worry about it. I only send money to myself like twice a month to pay my bills over here.
Okay. So
you have your credit card, your Capital One card or your Chase card where you have no foreign transaction fees. Just do everything on your card. And then the banks will tell you, will make the change for you, and you get your airline points.
Absolutely. So tools and software that you recommend for managing finances is Vanguard, Charles Schwab, Wise, and a good credit card.
Right. Yeah. So one tool, I'm so pissed off they went away. Mint.com was a fantastic budgeting tool I used for about 10 years, and Mint got swallowed up by Intuit, the Rocket Money. And so, hold on, let me see what the real name is now. And you plug in all your information, and it looks at your credit cards. Yeah, now it's Credit Karma. And Credit Karma is owned by Intuit that makes TurboTax, QuickBooks, stuff like that. And you link it to your bank account and all your credit cards in one spot. It'll show all your cash and all your bills in one spot. They took away some of the functionality that Mint.com had when they made it Credit Karma, but it's still very helpful to use to track your money in one place. And the cool thing, like I have my little scratch book here where I list groceries, debauchery, household stuff, grooming, things like that. Credit Karma will categorize it for you also.
Okay. Yeah, I use Credit Karma as well. So what future trends do you see in the expat investment and landscape in Asia? Like, for example, do you see that just more and more expats coming to invest in that part of the world, or what do you think?
So one thing I did find out is here in Thailand, folks from foreign countries would come over here and work and their money was offshore, so they didn't pay tax. So what Thai folks did was they would pick up their money and move it offshore so they wouldn't pay tax. And so the Thai government just closed that loophole. So I got a buddy, my Australian friends who are over here working were pissed off that they're making money in Australia. Now they got to start paying tax. They close the loophole. But the visa that I came in under through the government gives me a tax exemption. So there's ways that you can mitigate that happen. You got to read. You got to read stuff. And it popped up on the screen, and we're discussing it. And I had to correct them, like, "Hey, mofo, I don't have to worry about it because I'm here under that special exempt visa." And like I have my bank account. There's a guy here who's retired in my building who's from New York, and he was at the front desk. He's getting ready to leave, and he's giving the woman an envelope of cash. "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm giving her my cash to pay my electric bill." Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, why didn't you just use your Thai bank app to pay it? Because with his visa, he was unable to open a bank account here. So there's lots of folks here who are living, who renew their retirement visa every year, who still didn't jump through the hoops or have the right type of visa to open up the bank account. You see, but more and more people are flooding in. Like I said, my building here is about 80% Japanese. And you're like, well, why is that? Well, it's expensive to live in Japan. If Japan was cheaper, I'd be living in Japan myself. I love Japan. But you get more for your dollar over here. And so there are young Japanese couples living in here. The husbands go off to work in the morning, and I see the lady with her one baby on the front. She's pushing another baby, where they're going to the international schools because it's so much cheaper for them to be here than in Japan. Mm-hmm. Same with the Chinese being over here, and the Koreans come over here for vacation. And so it's not just us. We passport bros get a bad label, but people all over the world are moving around to find the best place to live. So a guy from Nigeria who's got an aunt in the States, and he moves to the States, do people in Nigeria call him a reverse passport bro? You have that's power for you to go where you are. Let's take a whole appreciation out of it. You have the power to go where your money will go farther and your quality of life will go up. Did you think you would enjoy Paraguay as much as you did?
No, I didn't. I didn't think I would be coming back here.
Tell them the story about what you sent me the other day, postponing the Turkey trip.
Oh, well, that was more so because my content right now, I'm highly thinking about postponing the Turkey trip because I'm doing so well with this content. Paraguay is perfect for me to focus on what I need to focus on.
Yeah. And a year ago, Brazil was the end all be all. You still want to go back to Brazil, you know? And then after that was Kenya. Paraguay was the sleeper.
Yeah.
Doing well over there. You're happy over there. Offline, I'm going to talk to you about the Graku situation over there, you know, how it is with chickies. But you're happy and you're making cash. So me and Austin, we're going to meet up like the first week of June in Turkey because he'll start his European trip. And he just texted me, he said, "Yo, I'm doing really, really well." And I'm not mad at him. I said, "Heck, go stay where the money is." You know?
Yeah. I'll stay a little while longer. I guess it's a good place to definitely save some money. But we'll meet in Turkey for sure.
What do you love most about Paraguay? Weather, food, the rat head, what?
No, I would say the peace factor. It's very boring, so it's very peaceful. There's not a lot of crime in this city at all, so it's very peaceful here.
And what's the city you're in again?
Asuncion.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I haven't been brushed up on my geography. And that's the thing, you know. What is it we steal from Coach Greg Adams? What did he say? You know, peace, quiet, and freedom. You know, free Asian lifestyle, whatever.
Yes.
And that's the big thing. You know, I haven't gotten into businesses per se or consulting and this and that because I enjoy doing nothing. My dad is 77, and he's very active in an organization called the 100 Black Men, of Central Virginia. 100 Black Men is nationwide. They have chapters all over the country. He's in Central Virginia. 2 weeks ago at their scholarship breakfast, they just gave away $48,000 in scholarships. 48 boys got $1,000 scholarships to go to college. And he's got his insurance company. He's got an engineering company. So he still work. So when I finally said, I'm done, I said, you baby boomers can keep fucking working. I'm going to stop. He says, you're going to get bored. If one other person asked me, aren't you bored? Hell no, I'm not bored. I'd say, am I going to get a haircut today or not? Am I going to go to the gym? Yeah. Am I going to eat sushi today or I'm going to eat noodles today? Am I going to cook? There are days I don't even leave the house because everything's right here in the building. It's a luxury to have that peace and that boredom right there.
Yes, absolutely. It contributes to a lot to having that peace factor. That's one of my most important parts. So I already asked you that. So do you have insurance or protective measures that safeguard your investments?
There really is no insurance for investments, because like if you notice, if you look at commercials, they'll say that past performance is no guarantee of future returns, and that goes back to the whole risk. If you get bonds or an index fund based on your top Dow Jones stocks, it's stable. You're not that. Yes, there's risk involved, but it's very, very little risk. But if you invest in some biomedical root that they just found in Brazil that's going to cure glaucoma from some little fly-by-night company, you just don't know. Like all those idiots who jumped in that whole Dogecoin thing, the ones who jumped into the GameStop thing. There was a lot of risk. Some people made money and everybody else got out of it. But the insurance is another thing for the travelers. So with my visa, I have to buy what we call a catastrophic policy. If I get sick over here, this government, when we come in to live, they don't want us on their welfare system. So I have to buy a policy every year to cover catastrophic care. If I get hit by a motorbike, if I get cancer, if I need a heart transplant. And I met a really, really nice lady. She's cute as heck. My friend said, Dan, you can't go out for her. She's my friend. I said, got it. No problem. But I met her through, my business connections. And I've got this Cadillac plan, plus it's like a $3,000 insurance policy. If I croak, my son gets that money. It's not a lot. But it's only $1,400 a month for a health insurance policy to cover if I stub my toe. Now, it doesn't cover routine medical visits, but medical visits here are so damn cheap. If I want to go get, every 6 months I get my STD test, I walk and get it done. If my shoulder bothers me, I go see my reflexologist. If I have a little gastric, I go to the hospital and pay. They list the prices, and healthcare is so damn cheap here. And that $1,400 policy that covers me for a whole year, I can stay in the best hospital in Thailand, and they'll replace my kidney for me, and it won't cost me anything. All out of costs are taken care of.
Wow, really?
Yep.
$1,400 policy, and you say that if you needed a kidney replaced, they could do that.
Yep, because that's one of the things she was telling me. We cover transplants, full cost. I'm like, what? My old policy didn't. And I put it on my Chase Amazon Prime card, $1,441. I know people will pay $1,400 a month just for health insurance for their damn family. You see?
Okay.
So you got to think about the insurance and what is that? But for those who don't need it, you need to have a travel policy. What is that health insurance policy called, Austin? Freebird? What is it called? Health policy. What's it called? This is it. I'm gonna put this in the chat, because this is something for anybody traveling needs to know. Paste. There we go. SafetyWing.com, which is insurance for nomads and people going remote. And it's It's $56 a month for people aged 18 to 39. And another big creator, the guy who I found my realtor through, and who I found my visa through, is great. Somebody like you that's traveling, you should look into the safety way if nobody's told you already.
Safety way.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 2 questions left, and then that's it for today. So what is your opinion on how important it is to network with other expats? Kind of like what we're doing right now. So I guess this is a rhetorical question in achieving business and investment success.
Definitely. There's another one I'm going to put in. So I learned about this organization when I was in the UAE called Internations. And Internations is global and it's free to join, and they have chapters in all the major countries. So when I lived in Abu Dhabi, I joined them free of charge, and they have mixers each month, and they have events each month for like little TED Talks and things like that. And when I came here, I didn't join Internations. Like I said, I met the Aussies, and I was invited to join the Australian Thai Chamber of Commerce. They also have here, everywhere you go, they have what's called the American Chamber of Commerce. It's called AmCham. So Australian Chamber is AustCham. American Chamber is AmCham. I did not join AmCham because of AmCham, you have to be sponsored by a company. You just can't be an individual. Whereas AustCham has individual memberships. And the first Wednesday of each month at some big hotel, we have a big mixer. They call it a Sundowners, which is their version of happy hour. You just start drinking until the sun goes down. Food, drinks, networking. I met this one brother from Newark who's been here for 16 years, who was in the record industry. And he just blew my mind with his knowledge. He's deep into meditation and yoga and deep thought. And just talking to him, I learned so much from him in like the few minutes that I met him. And we're going to meet up for lunch. And I've met all these darn other friends that I've met in hospitality. So like I could go anywhere around Thailand, and there's so many Australians in hospitality. If I go to Phuket or Koh Samui or Pattaya, I know the general managers. Say, hello, Dad, just give us a call. We'll give you a great rate on our room. And that's where I met the girl who did my insurance. That's where I met the one doctor, where I go around the corner just for like little routine tests and things like that. So wherever you go, you decide to settle down, find a chamber of commerce, and then also Internations. And also one of these people I met there is with the Rotary Club. I want to join with them. Rotary International is a big international charity organization that does a lot of good work. They got them in the States too. And I also found, I didn't know this, I'm a veteran. There's a Veteran of Foreign Wars post here in Bangkok. I got to go join. You know, they usually have VFW posts and American Legion posts back in the States, but I didn't know they had one here in Bangkok. So we get there and we have 25-cent hot dogs and cheap beers and stuff like that. They can help with things like that when it comes to, you know, your travel in and out and veterans benefits and things like that.
Okay, that's all the questions I have so far, because you actually just answered my last question. Super chatting, and that'll be it for today. Hey Dan, what are your thoughts and advice on dividend paying stocks and living off dividends while living abroad?
So the guy I met in the building from New York, who's maybe 10 years older, the one I told you who gave the cash, because he's in Italy for a month. He is retired and he's living off his dividends right now. So that's a very, very smart move, because your money's back in the States and you're not paying tax on it over here. And when you get to the age, so when you do your 401k and your Roth, you can access it with no penalties at age 59 and a half. One thing about us military people, we get it at 20 years. So if you go in at 17, which is the earliest you can darn sign up for the military, at age 37, you're Dunsky. You can just go and you'll start getting your pension right there and then go on to keep working. I got buddies who just retired and he applied for Oh, here's another thing we got to touch on. To come overseas, go to usajobs.gov. That is the hiring site for the U.S. government. And they've got all kinds. You don't need to have a college degree. You don't need to have military experience. You can get a job working for the U.S. government in posts and stations all over the globe. So here at the U.S. Embassy in Bangkok, they have a post office. They hire postal clerks there. You figure, why do I want to work at the post office? If you work for the U.S. government overseas, you get your salary, but they give you free housing. So you're not going to pay for housing. You may not be making as much money back in the States, but you get free housing. And your health care is taken care of. And your travel here and back home is taken care of. So I'll put that in the chat also. And you can just put in any type. They need plumbers overseas. They need locksmiths overseas. They need all types of folks to work for the U.S. government overseas. And a lot of folks do not know about it there. I just put it in.
Yeah, I didn't know about this website either that you just brought up. The usajobs.gov.
Yeah. And it's for all government jobs in the U.S. and outside. So you can do, it's free. You load up your resume and you can do searches just outside of the country.